this was more of a decision based on availability of someone I think is a top NHL coach, someone that we have experience with, someone Lou that I really do believe can coach this team and make this team reach its ultimate level of competitiveness. He's done that. He's worked with younger players in the USHL and in college. Good success in Dallas, good success in Boston. So he's one of those coaches that I really do believe can be with this team now and as it grows. And I think the proof of that is the 5-year commitment and what one of the things I think is the next part for Jim's career is to get that longevity in one spot. And I look at someone like John Cooper now. He's the standard bearer of what everyone wants to be, a competitive coach year in, year out, deals with different players, deals with players coming and going and finds a way to stay competitive. And that's Jim's next goal is to stay in St. Louis. And I hope it's for well over a decade. But we're going to start tomorrow.
That was comments from Blues general manager Doug Armstrong on the hiring of new Blues head coach Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a special edition of I guess Blues Notes. We'll just call it Blues Notes. Why not? Here tonight as we talk about the hiring of Jim Montgomery along with the firing of Drew Bannister. My name's Brandon. I got Brandon with me as well tonight. Brandon, quick reactions to today's firing of Drew Bannister first off.
Well, I mean, after seeing last season and how the Blues kind of ended out, yeah, they didn't make the playoffs, but they were six points out. But at the same time, the slow start that the team had, and you weren't really sure whether or not to. I mean, a lot of it you got to put kind of on the injuries because I mean you were without Thomas for 12 games. We've been without Broberg for a number of games. Letty for a little while. Both the Josephs for a minute. So I mean the team since the start of the season was been kind of rattled a little bit, but I mean. In a way, you're looking at a team that's 9-12-1, sixth, I think, in the conference or in the division at the moment. And I mean, day in and day out on this team, it looks like all they have a hard time setting pucks up in the offensive zone. They have a hard time getting the cycle going. Even on the back check, a lot of times it looks like they're not really in it. I know that that's still a lot of it's being juggled around and everything with injuries still, and people are trying to figure out things with the new line mates that they're playing with. Yeah. But after a certain amount of time, you almost got to look to it and say, hey, something's going on with the team. Maybe they're not gelling with the way that the coach is wanting to play the game, or something's not gelling right in practice. And I mean, in all fairness to Drew Bannister, he hasn't coached at all at this level before. This is his first start of a season in the NHL. He's been a coach in the AHL level for I don't know exactly how long, but still
quite a while from the sounds of it.
Yeah, quite a while. And I mean, if you were looking at the big picture of all, if Drew Bannister was in the midst of still coaching this team, even without what happened, you could probably see that it was probably going to take a number of possibly years before this team was back to what we were back in 18, 19, possibly 20. Because, I mean, if you look at the 19-20 team, that team was right there at possibly getting to another spot of where we were at in the year that we won the cup, and even in the first full season back from COVID, they were doing very well as well. But I mean, since Bannister took over, I don't feel like he has had the experience and had the the backing from a lot of the team is what ultimately caused what happened today. Aside from the factor of Montgomery getting fired from Boston earlier last week.
Yeah. So
Which,
it's yeah. I mean, he went 5 days in between being fired from, at least Jim Montgomery. He went being fired from Boston to now being the head coach of the St. Louis Blues. But we'll get to that part in a minute. A little. I mean, I don't want to say that we should be surprised. I think some of us when Jim Montgomery got fired the other day, were like immediately the Blues community was like, okay,
you almost
like,
had to feel like there was some sort of wheel turning.
Yeah, it had to have been at the time. Like there was no doubt that some way somehow he was going to end up being on the Blues coaching staff in some way, whether it was an assistant or like an assistant to the assistant GM, like something.
I didn't think they were going to fire Bannister. I didn't think they were going to go that far.
I didn't think so either. To be honest. I thought when because we were on our way down to, and I saw comments this morning and whatnot, and it was literally like an hour before all that happened, and I was like, no, like there's no way this is gonna happen. Like there's no way whatsoever that this is gonna happen today on a Sunday. The Blues are on the road of all things.
Yeah, because they played, well, they're more or less in New York pretty much from yesterday all the way till to tomorrow, because they're playing against the Rangers tomorrow.
Right.
But I mean,
too.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of caught, like I said, we were on our way down to a wrestling tournament this morning for our nephews, and it's just, my wife popped up. She's like, "Did you see this?" I'm like, "No freaking way! They actually did it." I was like, "I did not. I really didn't think that it was going to happen."
Yeah, and I was just waking up to go help a buddy move, and I saw what Josh had posted this morning on our chat page, and like, all right, this is a tweet from a Blues page on Twitter.
Yeah,
and it said that Bannister was fired and Montgomery was hired as a head coach. I'm like, okay, this has got to be fake. This is somebody trying to troll. And then I looked at, I think it was the Score, and they, like, the first headline that popped up was Bannister fired, Montgomery hired, and it happened like 5 minutes prior to me opening up the app. I'm going, holy crap.
It just kind of, I mean, it caught me by surprise this morning, on a Sunday morning, that you just weren't expecting the Blues to do something like that. But at the same time, I mean, if you listen to, like, read some of Army's comments, I mean, he in his press conference today, when these are from Jim Rutherford, or Jeremy Rutherford, he was there today, or at least listen to the press conference or whatnot. Army said, "When I woke up this morning, there was no inclination to make a coaching change. When Jim got let go in Boston, he certainly was someone I've respected, someone I admired, someone I felt had all the attributes to be a long-term coach for the Blues. This was more of an opportunity to get someone of Jim's caliber than anything else. This decision was based, I would say, almost 100% on having someone of Jim's caliber become available when I didn't know that was going to happen. When I talked to Drew today, I told him this was more a decision based on the availability of someone I think is a top-end NHL coach, someone we have experience with, someone I believe can coach this team, and when it reaches its ultimate level of competitiveness." That was in quote there from Doug Armstrong as well. It just, I don't know. It just caught me off guard this morning, and I do feel a little bad for Drew Bannister. I feel like he was just kind of
of course.
I don't know if he got the. I don't know. It just kind of feels not wronged, but I definitely sure. I mean, imagine he feels. I mean, he has to be not happy with the way things.
He's got to feel wronged in a way, or not so much wronged, but I guess not given a chance to show or prove himself, because he hasn't had a full season. He had an interim tag for maybe half the season last year.
Yeah.
And then you had what 20, 21 games this season?
Mhm.
No, 22 games this season.
22.
Because and you didn't you to be put in a position that he was in, getting your first full chance as an NHL coach. I mean, in all regard, you could have gotten back to a full healthy team, and things could have gone back to
Yeah.
being in a winning way. But I mean, at the same point of it all, if because I did read earlier in the week, I think it was maybe Thursday or Friday, they had an article that come out on the Athletic that said there was 5 teams in the league that were like probably no doubt calls to for Montgomery to be hired by. And I mean, the first one to pop up with was the Blues, and then I think the Flames, Islanders, and there was like 5 of them. I can't exactly remember who all the 5 were. I think the Rangers were even in there.
This would have
But
been in the off season though, not mid season or early season.
oh yeah, you were no thought in my mind thought that they were going to make something happen during this season, let alone 5 days after he got fired from Boston.
Right. Yeah, that was just again just something that I wasn't expecting. So I mean, look at Bannister's numbers though. He was 2 years, not even really. Realistically, it was 1 season. The amount of games that are put together, it's about 1 season. Went 39 and 39, 31 and 6, 84 points as the head coach of the team. So, 8 games above 500 if you don't count the overtime losses. Or if you count the overtime losses and the regular losses, that's what 39, 37. So barely breaking 500.
You're like a 505 or 506, something like that.
Something on that order. It's a 553 if you put the overtime losses in the category they're supposed to be in. I'm gonna pull up this clip I do have the Pavel Buchnevich clip here. So I'll pull that up. We'll play it, listen to it, and see if
because there are some very key very key things that he brought up in this clip that I have noticed throughout the season so far this year that is like,
yeah, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. So we'll get this pulled up here really quick and get it to play. This is Pavel Buchnevich after the loss to the New York Islanders last night.
Third period, what did you like about your push there?
We changed the breakout and we start playing better. At least we got the speed on breakout when we dump the puck. Every time we dump the puck, first period, we never get the puck back and we're just chasing puck around. As soon as we change the breakout, at least we enter the zone with the speed and we can for checking.
So is that something you think you can carry forward?
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. We score 2 goals a game. We can win the games like that. What's our goal is have to stop 50 shots every game. It's impossible. Our teams have a good players and we're scoring. We got to figure out offense. Offense is our biggest issues. Impossible to win with 1 and 2 goals, but just impossible.
What do you see as the issues on offense?
I know it doesn't work on that. We're working on the D zone. We gotta start working on the offense. Believing we can score. It's hard to win in this league like 2-1 and 1-0. I think we play defensively much better than last year, but it doesn't create any chances offensively. This is our biggest issues right now. It's probably the lowest team in goals.
As far as the power play goal, is that kind of a set play you have to Jake there?
No, yeah, Otter make a good call on meetings and we capitalize one, but it's also like we got 1 power play a game. It's like, look at the last 5 games, we got 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. Like it's just hard to generate any stuff, We gotta play more offense to draw the penalty and, create some chances at least.
Is that a tough balance to find? I mean, you talked about being good defensively. Is that a tough balance to have both of them going at the same time?
I guess we have to figure out unless, telling you it's hard to win in games like when you score 1 or 2 goals. Just against some teams, it's just impossible to go with the players on other teams.
So yeah, this is some of the comments from Pavel Buchnevich after the loss to the 3-1 loss to the Islanders last night, which led to the events that happened today with Drew Bannister being fired. Jim Montgomery is now in. do you think bringing Jim Montgomery, and I know, look at, Pavel Buchnevich talked about, they probably have the least amount of goals scored in the NHL, right?
Yeah.
They're 53. They're
And
53 goals so far in the season. There's the Nashville Predators have 50, and they're not a very good team.
they're like, I think, bottom 2 or bottom 3 teams in the league. I think they're right there with San Jose. I think Chicago and Anaheim all down there at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, Chicago's another team that has less goals for than St. Louis, but other than that, that's it. It's Chicago, Nashville, St. Louis. The big difference here, when I look at it, is Chicago's goals against is 63, which puts them at minus 13. Nashville's is 50-65, which is minus 15. St. Louis's is 53 and 74, which is minus 21.
Which is, I think, isn't the stat for the Blues the worst out of all of them is their goal differential.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, looks like negative minus 21.
And the bottom of the list. I thought it was. I thought I read somewhere that they had the worst goal differential out in the league.
Pittsburgh is at 59 and 93, so they're minus 34. But
I mean, Pittsburgh has been not doing all that great. They're about to hit a rebuild.
Oh yeah, they're gonna empty house. They're gonna keep Crosby. They're gonna keep Malkin. They'll be fine. But you can't let those guys go. They've been Penguins their whole life. It'd be weird to see them playing somewhere else. It'd be like Ovechkin playing somewhere else. We all know he's not going to go anywhere else.
Well, I mean, Sid is probably he's what, early 30s, I think 32, 33. He's probably getting close to the point of saying, well, I don't know. If Pittsburgh can get back, I think he could probably play a few, probably maybe 2-3 more seasons. But I feel like he's one of those guys that if they get into a rebuild, I feel like he would retire or ask to be moved.
Right. Yeah. You never know. We're not here to talk about the Penguins, though.
Right.
The Blues are 3-6-1 in their last 10 games. Do you think Jim Montgomery coming in, being as the head coach, what do you think is going to change? Do you think it's really going to change that much? Are they going to make that kind of a push like we saw in 2019?
I think they won't probably make it as big of a push right away.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be something gradual because it's just like anything else. You don't want to throw the kitchen sink at the team because then all of a sudden you're going to throw too much stuff at them at one time and you're going to overload the players and they're just going to pretty much brain dump everything as practices are pretty much getting over with. So you want to just work on one thing at a time. Yeah, Pavel Buchnevich brought up a good point. Is like they've been working a lot on their defense this year compared to last year, and that's what is a good thing they'll be working on. But they need to start getting something going with their defense, or not their defense, their offense.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, Jim Montgomery is easily one of those top tier coaches in the NHL. I mean, he did really well for Dallas whenever he was there in 18-19. Yep. He did really good as an assistant coach for the Blues whenever he was here previously. I mean, the year that Colorado won the Cup, right before he moved from St. Louis to Boston, we had the number 1 power play, we had the number 2 power play in the league. Only lowest from Colorado, who won the Cup back in 22. And then he moved to Boston in 23. And then the 23 season for Boston, they had that was when they had their record, that was the prior year that they had the record run for the record of the most points or most wins. And then
he was that was 2 years ago. Yeah, his first year as the head coach of the Bruins. Yeah.
Yep. And then last year they had another incredible run. Every which year they ended up in the playoffs, but I think they only made it I know they made it out of the first round, or no?
They made it
each
out
year.
Yeah, I think they made it out of the first round. They went to the. Did they go to the Eastern? Was it Eastern Conference Finals last year? Or the second round. It was the
I
second
think it
round.
was second round because they
Yeah, they
played
lost to
Florida.
Yeah.
The only reason I feel like Boston was on any kind of skid this year is because of their goalie situation. Not signing.
They lost a lot too. They lost Bergeron, who's a big leader in the locker room. To retirement.
Yes. They lost a key number of players that were big veteran pieces last year, but the one piece of dramatic news that happened this season for the Boston Bruins was that they didn't have Swayman going into camp, and then all of a sudden they signed him like right before day one of the season gets going, and then all of a sudden it was like article after article, interview after interview saying that and I mean it was true. Swayman did not have a very good start to the season. I mean they started out 8-9-1 whenever Montgomery got fired.
Yes.
So it was, and I mean, it's always the coach that goes out first. It's always how it's been, always been. So, and the first game that Joe Sacco comes in and coaches the Bruins, they sit Jeremy Swayman. Is this a coincidence? I don't know, but they have Corpusalo come in and they win 1-0 against the team that they were playing against. I can't remember exactly who they were playing against, but they
Detroit Saturday. So yesterday,
okay,
they won 2-1. Sorry,
2-1.
2-1.
But I think I don't think that was the first game that Secco had. I think he had one before that.
It was a game against
Utah.
Won 1-0. Yeah.
Yep. And they had Corpusalo come in, and as that was like the big thing that they were talking about the following day was that Sacco benched Swayman, and it was. So do I think it was ultimately all because of things going on with the team? Yeah, it could have been a lot of things going on with the team, losing Bergeron, a key piece of that locker room. Definitely, that could be a lot of the things going on with that locker room. They lost a lot of leadership
too, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and they lost Olmark as well. So I mean, because he went to Ottawa. Right. There's a lot of contributing factors that could be going on with Boston, but the ultimate thing right now is that their number one goaltender isn't playing up to snuff because he apparently didn't get the reps in training camp like all the other guys did.
Which is fair.
And
that's fair
yeah.
to say. Yeah, that's 100% fair to say. It's live action being on the ice and actually in a game is different than preseason. It's different than camp. It's just different.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, to see something like that and them firing Montgomery was something that I didn't think in 1,000 years that was going to happen. I figured that he was going to stick with Boston because he's such an incredible coach. And then all of a sudden, early in the week, last week, we see that he got fired. And all of a sudden, the interview, whenever Armstrong was saying, like, I had conversations throughout the week with Montgomery to see different things, and all of a sudden this news today, I was like, I get it because he's a top tier coach in the league, and they could do a lot for this team. So it will be something to see. Like I said before, I don't think it's going to be something that's going to show right away. But there's going to be pieces, I think, that fall into place as time goes on, and you'll see that this team get increasingly better as this season goes on.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I mean, Boston's now 10-9-3, but if you look at the Bruins, you look at the Blues, they're very similar teams. The way they're built right now, they're very similar. They got some veteran leadership. They have good goaltending when it's good. When it's good, it's good. Really good.
Yep.
They have people who can score. We both teams do. They're right now. We talked about the Blues goal differential. So the Boston Bruins were currently at -19. So there's going to be a lot of things that Montgomery's going to come in, and it's not going to be a cakewalk. I don't think it's going to be
No.
like when Berube came in and took over. I think this is going to be a longer process, which is why they gave him the 5-year deal. To be honest,
Oh, definitely.
I wouldn't say I was surprised by the 5-year deal, but I was kind of like that's a lot for. I get it, I do get it, but at the same time, like what if this utterly fails? What if just
And you're not wrong.
Of the Blues organization, and like it doesn't turn anything around, and you go into next year, you're obviously not going to get rid of him at the end of this year. You'll go into next season with him. There's no doubt in my mind that happens, unless it just that like the wheels fall completely off of it and they don't win a game the rest of the season, which I don't think is going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen now.
With Chicago in the division, that's not going to happen.
No.
I don't know. I hope this is a good thing. I think it's going to be a good thing for the Blues. I thought Drew Bannister was going to be kind of like that guy that brings a little bit of spark that the Blues organization needed at the time, and it did at the end of last season, but it's dried out, unfortunately, for Bannister.
Yep. I wasn't sure how that experiment was going to go for the Blues. I figured it was going to be a little bit better than what it has started out to be for the team. Yeah. And to see where they've kind of gotten, I would say out of the
9 wins.
9 wins, sorry. Out of the 9 wins, I would say that there's probably maybe 5, maybe 4 or 5 that they would. I mean, all of them were very good wins. They needed the wins. But the fact that they were down for the number of games that they started and had to come back and win, that was a big kind of thing that, I mean, even a lot of analysts were like, why are this isn't good for a team to be starting out, always having to come from behind to get victories and whatnot. And after in the long run of the season, they're going to wear themselves down doing this type of play. And it's not going to be good for the team. No. And they're going to have to work on something in order to get that offense going, and not just saying, oh, we're just going to play half-heartedly in the first period, get going better in the second period, and then we'll see what happens on the third period. Because ultimately, that's how I felt like this season has really started out, is that they just kind of, there's only maybe been a couple of games that they had been getting going right away in the first period. But other than that, probably 80% of the rest of the games have been just how I explained. They have a slow start, they get going in the second, and then it's kind of like we'll see what happens in the third.
Yeah. One of the games that comes to mind, at least like we're looking at the schedule now, like the 5-1 win in Toronto, back in October was one, but then you turn around and you go to Montreal and you lose 5-2, and you go to Ottawa. You get 2 days off and go to Ottawa and lose 8-1.
8-1 against Ottawa.
Like that right there. And I don't think we talked about it before, at least through the chats and stuff, that we have. Like you said, about them, starting really slow and not continuing. It'll be halfway through the second period before they pick up any kind of momentum, any kind of speed, anything like that. And you can see that even not being somebody who regularly played hockey or whatnot. If you're not a huge fan, like, you can pick up on that if you watch the game, watch more than 1 or 2 games, 3 games, you can pick up on that pretty quickly. Like, oh, this is not good. It's not good to start out slow, and it takes 35 minutes before you get any kind of pressure into the offensive side of the ice. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
No. I will say, though, the one thing that they did go from last season into this season doing a lot better with was the not giving up whenever they got down in the game.
Yeah.
Whenever they started the season, I figured once they got down, like the first couple games, I was like, oh crap, they got down. They're just gonna start just being a little bit more lackadaisical on the puck. They're not going to go anywhere with this game, and they're going to lose. And there was a lot of those games that they proved me wrong, thankfully, and they came back and won. But you can't do that every game.
No. Like the one game that sticks out to me when I think about things like that is the Buffalo game a few weeks ago. Not even. I mean, yeah, I guess it has been 2 weeks now since that game's happened.
How did that game go?
They had a 2-0 lead.
Oh yeah, they gave 2-0, I believe, going into the.
No, it was 3-2 going
was
into.
it? I thought 3-1 going into the third period, and they came back and tied it. And then within like 30 or 40 seconds of the game, they got the winning goal. What?
No.
I thought.
No, so it was 2-1 after the 2-1 Sabres after the first.
Oh.
Right? And then the second period, the Blues scored 2 times to make it 3-2. And then shut out Buffalo. Looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third period, Buffalo scores to tie the game. And then they had that I thought was an iffy goalie interference call.
Yeah. I remember what game you're talking about now.
Against Sundqvist, which they just bled out the rest of the 45 seconds that were on the clock.
Yeah.
And then Buffalo won it in overtime. Like that's a game you have the momentum going into the third period. And you just kind of, I mean, to me, I thought they just kind of they sat back and relaxed a little bit.
Yeah.
In that one.
Yeah.
Which ultimately led to them losing that game.
Yeah. And one of the more recent games, and I might get a little bit of slack for this one, was the San Jose game that they ended up taking into a shootout this past week. Yes, San Jose was coming into that game, just getting done playing Dallas the day before. And that almost the entire game, it looked like the Blues were just going. And they were playing a really good forecheck game. They weren't really letting San Jose really do much. San Jose looked like they were just more or less trying to get the puck out of their end most of the time. They weren't getting any kind of offensive rush going or nothing. And then all of a sudden, I think it was like halfway in the third, it looked like something kind of turned around for the Blues, and they started getting a few more chances and that, and then they got the goal with it 30 or no, sorry, not even that much left. It was 8 seconds left in the game whenever they got the tying goal.
Yep.
And all of a sudden is overtime, and it seemed like they were just skating around with the puck.
Yeah.
It doesn't really seem like they were really trying to get an offensive attack going or anything. They were just it seemed like they were just trying to burn time for overtime. And yeah, I think they had a few offensive chances in overtime, but it just seemed like the rest of the time they were just skating around, trying to find an opening, trying to find a chance.
Right.
And then they were able to 50-50 chance win out of the shootout, which, I mean, against a team like San Jose, who is going through a hard rebuild right now, you almost got to be taking those games without a shadow of a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, San Jose has been that one team, aside from a couple others, that has always had the St. Louis's number for the last several seasons.
And luckily, they're 2-0 against them this year. Luckily, somehow they shouldn't be.
Yeah. But I don't get it why the team has been the way it has, and it could have been all from I don't want to solely put it on this. It could have been the sole inexperience of NHL caliber coaching. I don't know if that is the case or not, because you still have Ott, you still have all of the rest of the coaching staff that you had last year under Berube and everybody else.
Not even that have been there for years. They've most of those guys have been there for a while. or
Yeah.
at least in the NHL. I mean, you know, probably one of the at least a Hall of Famer in Claude Julien as well.
Yeah.
Like you have guys there
Yeah. So
that shouldn't have let this happen, basically.
but in the hindsight of do I want to put it solely on the coaching? No, because a lot of it too is the people that you put out on the ice and their effort and their ability on the ice. And if they aren't able to do it, then you go and do what you do. That's fine, but you got to have something of a higher tier coach, which I believe is what they have now, and Jim Montgomery. And I feel like he's somebody that, yes, Bannister was a very good developmental coach. We saw that all through the AHL for the countless seasons that he's been coaching down there. And he's really good with the new guys and everything. But I mean, you could say the same thing for Montgomery as well. I mean, he coached college, he coached minor league team, or in the past before he got into NHL coaching. So I mean, you could say that he is good with the rookie players as well, or players that still are going through development. So I mean, once we get guys like Snuggerud, Dvorsky, Lindstein, all the countless number of first round picks that we have coming up through the grapevine, I feel like within the next 5 years of having Montgomery, I feel like he could potentially help these guys out vastly.
Absolutely.
And we could see a Blues team that could be something of a playoff caliber team in the next few years.
I still think they could do that this year with the way the West is. I don't think the West is as strong as it has been in the past. At least
it hasn't.
Wild card wise, I think they could if they get there and get things going. I mean, we've seen it before.
Yeah.
With the lesser amount of games in the season.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like we said earlier, we're at 22 games into the season. We're at the quarter mark currently. Yeah. So I mean, you still have 3/4 of the season still to go. Mm-hmm. I think there's a way of possibly bouncing back and getting into a wild card position, or possibly even that third spot in the Central. Because don't get me wrong, you aren't getting anywhere near Winnipeg or Minnesota. Those two teams in the Central are having way too good of a start. Yeah. They're jumping out to a start that a lot of teams wish they could be having. Yeah. But yeah, Dallas. Who's the other one that's up there? I mean, Dallas, Chicago, Nashville, Utah, even because Utah's in the Central. All those and Colorado, yeah. They're having a hard time really finding their group, but I mean, they're hitting an injury bug just the same as the Blues are. That seems like that team is always hitting an injury bug almost every season.
Outside of, I mean, realistically, the top four in the Central are tough. I mean, you have Winnipeg, who's 7-3 in their last 10. Minnesota 6-2-2 in their last 10. Dallas is 6-4 in their last 10, and Colorado 7-3 in their last 10 with 3 straight wins. So it's not gonna be an easy road. I mean, they have 19 points on the season. Colorado's at 24. Dallas is at 26. So you get yourself on a little bit of a streak. You never know.
Yeah, I think it's easily. It could. I shouldn't say easily. It could be a possibility of getting to that point though, where if like you have a good stretch of wins coming up, this week is going to be a hard stretch. Don't get. There's a very, very hard possibility of that this week. I mean, you got Rangers tomorrow. You got New Jersey on Wednesday, and then I can't remember who it was after that. I think,
this the weirdest thing too. Like they have that 3-game road trip that they're on now on the East Coast. So they knew at the Islanders, at the Rangers, at Devils, and then they're home Saturday versus Philadelphia.
That's what it was, Philly. I couldn't remember what the last one was.
And then they head so just to kick off December. Then they're at Winnipeg, at Calgary,
Ugh.
at Edmonton, at Vancouver.
They got a hard stretch of
Yeah.
the
And then
next several games.
Then they're home for one against San Jose on Thursday the 12th. And then they're back on the road on Saturday to play Dallas at Dallas.
So, in other words, a lot of Central Division games are coming up, and yikes.
Yeah.
So
they play 1, 2, 3 Central Division teams in the whole month of December. Dallas on the 14th, Nashville on the 27th of December, and Chicago. I'm sorry, 4. I forgot Winnipeg. So you got Winnipeg on the 3rd, and then you have Chicago on the 31st. Other than that, you're playing the Flames, the Oilers, the Canucks, the Sharks, the Devils, and Rangers again. Then you're Tampa Bay and Florida, and then you're at Detroit, and you're home against Buffalo for a 2:00 game, and then you're at Chicago for a 4:00 game on New Year's Eve for the Winter Classic.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It'll be, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm eager to see how they do against some of these upcoming teams that they're playing this week, especially with the new coaching.
Yeah.
So we will, it'll be interesting to see. I'm definitely eager to watch if there's any differences coming out of this first game, if there's going to be any line combinations that are going to be looking different, if there's going to be the coach is going to change some things up in the lines.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if anything is going to be kind of shaken up in a way, because I feel like this roster needs kind of a shake up, because
just a little bit.
Because I mean, they did it the one time whenever they put the Walker, Foxa, and Torch line up on the second line. Yeah, whenever they put them up on line number 2 for a game. But I mean, just to do it for one game, I don't feel like is that much of a shakeup. If you are all of a sudden changing guys from first or second line to third or fourth line and putting the guys that have actually been producing up on the top lines, right, I feel like that's a little bit more of a shakeup than changing one whole line.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. It'll be, like I said, interesting to see what happens. Is Jim Montgomery will make his Blues head coaching debut tomorrow night in New York. Do you have any predictions for this before we end the show tonight? I think we'll see a little bit of spark. I think the Blues get this one.
I feel like there'll be a little bit of a spark coming into Monday's game, especially with having a new head coach.
Yeah.
That being said, New York is also playing pretty well already at the start of the season. I feel like they'll have I feel like they'll have a little bit of a push, but I think it's still going to be a loss, but I think it's going to be a closer loss than what we've seen the Blues have in the past.
12-6-1. I'm sorry, 12-6-1 is what the Rangers are right now.
I would maybe call a 1 point difference between the Rangers and the Blues coming out of tomorrow.
I think they can get 1 point. They can get the thing to overtime, get a point, go to New Jersey, get another point, get maybe 2 out of New Jersey, and then come back home.
I don't know, man. With how well New
Jersey's good.
New Jersey is probably the top team in the East right now. I would want to say, aside from maybe Florida, but Florida's been having a little bit of goaltender issues, I feel like, as well. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that team is just sparking. I don't know what it is. I feel like Florida and New Jersey right now are probably the top teams in the East. Some. I wouldn't say they are the top, but some of the top teams in the East.
Because Carolina's right behind New Jersey at 29 points. With 3 games less played, or fewer played than the Devils are. So
they got 3 games in hand on New Jersey.
And then Toronto is actually overtaken Florida for the top spot in the Atlantic.
I could see that because I mean Marner's starting to come around a little bit this season. He's starting to get a lot better this season, and I feel like a lot of it is him and some of the other guys that were so bought into their previous coach. I feel like they're starting to get bought into a little bit of what Berube has to offer in Toronto.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a fair statement. I would say fair statement. I guess that'll wrap things up tonight.
Yep.
With the Blues letting go or relieving Drew Bannister of his head coaching duties today. Earlier this morning, Jim Montgomery signing a 5-year deal to become the Blues head coach for the next, for a little while. We'll see what happens as he makes his head coaching debut for the St. Louis Blues tomorrow evening in New York. So make sure you watch that one if you get a chance to. Should be interesting. Brandon, thanks for joining tonight. I definitely appreciate it. I know we were planning on trying to get to this a lot sooner than the time we're getting to it now.
Yeah, we're getting to it pretty late, and there's a lot of things that came up before with us, and because we were planning on going at 4:00 earlier today, and we started at like 9:30, I think, and I was like, I started getting to doing things. I know you had people over at your house, so we were getting going a little later than expected.
That's what it is. It happens. But hey, don't forget to check out St. Louis Sports Network. Check out all the stuff we got going on. Hopefully we can start becoming your source or your spot for all your St. Louis sports needs. So we'll see you next time. For myself, Brandon, for the other Brandon, for everybody else here at St. Louis Sports Network. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.